Welcome, and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. On the program today, we're joined by Benjamin Rosen, who has graduated from Grandmaster Michael Lomax's 500-hour clinic on Qigong certification program. Well, most of you out there might be wondering, well, what exactly is Qigong, and what does it have to do with this conversation? Well, today we're going to learn about the world of Qigong movement practices, where we're going to discover the benefits and applications of clinical Qigong as a therapy method for both humans and animals. We'll also bring up the nature of long-distance Qigong healing. Will be discussed along with the discussion on what makes clinical Qigong its own unique practice, therapeutically distinct from other energy healing arts. I'd like to welcome to the Beyond 50 radio program today our guest who's going to teach us how to understand clinical Qigong from China, Benjamin Rosen. Benjamin, thank you for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program.
Hi, Daniel. I'm happy to be here.
Now, first of all, what is Qigong?
Okay, cool. Qigong is an ancient Chinese healing practice. Sources say that it originates really as far back as 5,000 years in ancient China. And Qigong is a meditation art. It's also it's a movement art. Essentially, there's many different forms and styles of Qigong. Qigong can mean martial Qigong in terms of cultivating energy for martial arts, or healing Qigong, so cultivating energy for self-healing, or like clinical Qigong, which we'll speak about later, for healing others. But really, what all Qigong has in common is energy. So all Qigong involves the cultivation of Qi, which is the Chinese word for energy or life force. So the word Qigong can actually be broken down into Qi, which is energy, and Gong, which is short for Gung Fu, which means time and effort. So the word Qigong literally means the study of energy through time and effort. So as I mentioned, there's many different styles out there, and I'll just begin speaking about the style that I teach and practice, which is called Gift of the Tao Qigong. So Gift of the Tao Qigong is really it's a fairly unique style and system of Qigong within the world of Qigong out there. So many Qigong styles, they incorporate use of breath control, proper body posture, visualization, and Gift of the Tao Qigong actually incorporates none of that. So Gift of the Tao Qigong sees those things such as breath control, visualization, exact proper body posture, and even exact repetitions of movements as utilization of the mind. And this system recognizes the mind as a very powerful tool, and probably one of the most powerful things out there. The mind is certainly a powerful thing. But Gift of the Tao Qigong, what makes this system unique is that it approaches to take the mind out of the equation. So Gift of the Tao Qigong, by not focusing on breath, by not focusing on or not utilizing visualization, which is a mental practice, or being worried or aware of perfect body posture, simply it makes the complete focus of the practice just awareness of the energy itself, which in theory of this practice, you can potentially approach the infinite, which is the true nature of energy. So this is basically, there's many different kinds of Qigong, as I said. This is just one way of doing it. And Qigong, beyond just a practice, beyond just a 15-minute exercise or however long you practice it, really this form of Qigong views Qigong as a way of life. And actually the goal within this particular form of Qigong is something called 24/7 Qigong, or basically where you're always doing Qigong. So Gift of the Tao Qigong is really just a facet. It's part of a system called Stillness Movement Lineage of Qigong, which Grandmaster Michael Lomax, as you mentioned, he's the lineage holder of this system. And Gift of the Tao Qigong is his gift to this system. He created these movements as a way of bringing awareness to energy. And as I mentioned, the goal is this 24/7 way of life Qigong. So to help achieve this, I mean, there's Qigong walking, Qigong running, Qigong eating, Qigong sleeping, Qigong dreaming. I think you get the point. So really, when you get to, so we're at the point where Michael Lomax is at, you're always doing Qigong. You're never not doing Qigong. So Qigong is viewed as this way of life. It's a way of interacting in harmony and balance with energy. And whether you're just doing a 10-minute exercise or trying to carry that awareness of energy into your daily activities and practices, Qigong essentially, I think in all forms of Qigong out there, it's a way of bringing harmony and balance of external energy with your own energy inside of you. And the goal of this, ultimately, is for self-healing. So that, I mean, we could spend the whole hour just talking about what Qigong is, but that's a fairly good explanation for Qigong.
Now, tell us how Qigong works exactly.
Yes. So really the human body could be looked at as an electrical organism. In Western medicine and science is showing us, or very much knows, that the nervous system, for example, is completely made up of electrical inputs and outputs through nerve synapses. And as well, we're starting to find now that even individual organs, such as the heart, spleen, or liver, each emit their own electric frequencies that are unique to that organ. So the human body we conduct electricity. We are electrical beings. So Qigong, this ancient practice, it's a way of achieving harmony and balance with this electrical flow of the body. So you could look at the human body as like a radio antenna. And in the same kind of way that you would twist and turn, move a radio antenna around to find the best position for it, so that it could receive the best signal, the best quality of sound, really Qigong is very particular movements and awarenesses with those movements in tuning into energies to increase the frequency and increase the harmony and flow of your own inner energy. So it's really a fairly similar concept. And so Qigong, it originates with ancient Chinese Taoists. So these ancient Taoists, they viewed nature, as in trees and animals, and rivers, mountains, all as the Tao. This nature is already in sync with the harmony of the universe's energies of Qi. So the Taoists formulated these Qigong movements as a way of, as forming our human antenna, as a way of shaping ourselves to imitate nature, to copy these patterns already existing in nature, to sync with the Tao, with the universe, with the energies around us. So that's why many Qigong forms you'll see out there will have styles that look like trees or tigers or cranes, essentially natural forms that are present in nature, and which is a very valid way of doing it, very valid technique. But what makes it to the Tao Qigong its own unique style is that it copies energy patterns, but it does so in a very interesting way. My teacher, Qigong Master Michael Lomax, he received in a series of visions and states of altered awareness, or higher level awareness, in what he coins dream time. He received these visions of very high level energy patterns and was prompted and told to form movements based on what he observed and saw. So really each movement in the Gift of the Tao series is based on this direct energy pattern that Michael Lomax witnessed, which, I mean, from a visual standpoint, makes some of these movements look kind of interesting. But from an energy standpoint, it makes these movements not only fairly unique, but very powerful, because they're tuning directly into these energy patterns. Because if you copy, for example, a tiger or crane, you're copying, it's a little bit more indirect way of copying an energy pattern. Tiger is copying an energy pattern, and then you copy the tiger. And in Gift of the Tao Qigong, the moves go directly to the energy patterns themselves. So it's a fairly unique and interesting style to experience. So that's, as much as I think I could explain, that's how Qigong works, by imitating natural patterns of nature.
Mm-hmm. Now, there is a difference between Qigong and Tai Chi, correct?
Yes, certainly. So, actually, I get this question quite often. Many people ask me, well, what is the difference between Qigong and Tai Chi? Because both are known for self-healing aspects. Both even have the word Qi in them. So what is really the difference between these two arts? Both are obviously Chinese arts. Both are energy arts. They both fall under this umbrella of energy energy arts. But what separates them is that Qigong is a true energy cultivation system. And when I say that, I mean Qigong, the practice of Qigong should help balance, increase the flow, and just increase the strength of your overall energy, or self-healing, of course. And Tai Chi is really, it's an application of energy. So Tai Chi is, traditionally speaking, Tai Chi is a martial art. Tai Chi movements are made for combat and self-defense situations. But what makes Tai Chi an energy art is these movements are made within Tai Chi to be efficient in circulating Qi for their different self-defense moves. So in the same way, we'll talk about clinical Qigong later in this discussion, but clinical Qigong is another application of energy. It's an application of already cultivated Qi that is used for helping to heal others. And Tai Chi, traditionally speaking, is an application of already cultivated energy that you're now using for self-defense purposes. So, but traditionally speaking, this is the case for Tai Chi. But nowadays, contemporarily speaking, Tai Chi is often taught as an energy practice, as a way of cultivating Qi. But in ancient China, or not even that far back in China, Tai Chi was never taught as a single practice. It was always taught either with Qigong, or it was taught after someone had already practiced and built a strong foundation with Qigong and built up their energy so that they have energy before they learn an art like Tai Chi to apply it with. So that's not to say I don't think Tai Chi has any merit. I think it certainly does, and there's certainly plenty of studies out there that show Tai Chi as a valid self-healing art. So Tai Chi does help circulate energy. It just, the movements themselves, as we were just speaking about, movements of Qigong are made and engineered to cultivate energy, increase energy within the body. And the movements of Tai Chi were built and engineered for self-defense purposes. So that's not their purpose. But contemporarily speaking, as I was saying, I think Tai Chi does have benefit and merit. It's taught as kind of more like a meditative dance nowadays, and that isn't always taught in a self-defense manner, even though there certainly are Tai Chi practices out there that still teach it in the traditional way. But any kind of
I was going to say that you mentioned earlier clinical Qigong. Tell us about the modality of that.
Okay, well, yes. So clinical Qigong is, as I referenced earlier, is the therapeutic application of Qi energy. So a clinical Qigong, a practitioner would not learn clinical Qigong without learning Qigong first, as you first need to build up your own energy before you can give it to clients. So essentially, a clinical Qigong is where the practitioner themselves have built up an excess amount of energy, as well as learned a vast system of techniques in applying this energy to helping treat dysfunction and disease in a client. So the basic notion of clinical Qigong when you're doing a session for someone is you're providing the client high-level healing Qi, and you're pulling out lower-level, or also termed stagnant Qi, causing the dysfunction. And clinical Qigong involves both on and off-body techniques. And so the clinical Qigong, really the main modality of it in Chinese is called Wei Qi Liao Fa, which means healing with external energy. And most of the techniques of clinical Qigong practitioner are fall within this category of Wei Qi Liao Fa. And the system that I practice, Michael Lomax's system of stillness movement, this system has a unique form of clinical Qigong called Chinese Neuro Energetic Therapeutics. And Chinese Neuro Energetic Therapeutics is a very cool and unique, it's unique to the system, and it's a very interesting style of clinical Qigong. It is essentially, it's a way of completely treating the entire human body. And it does this by tapping into the neuroenergetics of the spine. So you start at the base of the spine, move all the way up, as it's a soft tissue modality, it's not manipulation. And you're just applying gentle touch, but it's an energy technique. So you're tuning into the client's energy through their spine, through these intervertebral spaces where nerve synapses appear. And you are correcting each tiny imbalance along the entire nervous system as you go up. And it's not a back technique. It's not a nervous system technique. It's a way of completely treating the entire human body, because the nervous system, it transmits signals to every single cell of the human body. So this is really an ingenious method of transmitting qi through the nervous system to every single cell of the human body. So this is one aspect of clinical Qigong that is unique to the way I practice, from what I learned. And clinical Qigong practitioners also practice Tui Na. Tui Na is a type of Chinese massage, medical massage. And Tui Na means to push and pull. And particularly, the style that I learned, Tui Na-based movements, I learned a way of essentially called opening the energy gates. So you can project energy all you want to someone, and sometimes the energy blockage that you're trying to get rid of doesn't go away until you physically go in and you help open up what are called energy gates, which big energy gates, for example, are at the wrists and the ankles, and others are at knees or the neck. When you physically open up these energy gates, you can create a big flush of energy and flush out energy that might have been difficult to get through off-body or through other on-body techniques. So all these techniques make up the modalities used by the clinical Qigong practitioner.
Now, it's interesting because as I was opening up the show, I see that you can actually do long-distance Qigong healing. How is that different from if somebody's there in person with you?
Yes, so that's correct. So as I was mentioning earlier, Wei Qi Liao Fa. So any technique, and there's a vast majority of techniques within the clinical Qigong practitioner's arsenal that are Wei Qi Liao Fa. And every single Wei Qi Liao Fa technique can be done long-distantly. And these include off-body techniques. So in a physical session, maybe half or a certain portion of the techniques I'll do on a person will be off-body. I'll be a foot or within a foot away from them as I'm applying the technique of energy. And these techniques can all be done. There's no set limitation on the distance that can be achieved. Because when you look at Qi, Qi is a non-linear thing. It has no linear limitations on space or time or distance. This is why, as I spoke about earlier, with Gifts of the Tao Qigong, we try to take away all sorts of limitations, for example, the mind, to achieve this potentially infinite, which is the true nature of energy. So that's why I've done sessions on people in England or Washington, the state above us, or people in the Midwest, and I've had quite profound therapeutic results. And really because on the level of energy, on the level of Qi, there is no difference. And the concept of distance is no concept for Qi. The only thing that is different is that I cannot do Chinese neuroenergetics with someone, or I cannot do Tui Na-based opening the energy gates, as those actually do require a physical touch component. But every other Wei Qi Liao Fa technique I can do distantly, and I've had great success with that so far.
Now, how is clinical Qigong similar or different from other modalities of Chinese therapeutics, such as acupuncture, for instance?
Okay. So both are aspects of Chinese therapeutics. Acupuncture, actually, I should say, clinical Qigong is actually sometimes referred to as needleless acupuncture, as both acupuncture and Qigong both utilize all the same points, all the same channels, the same exact energetic anatomy. And one thing that makes clinical Qigong distinct and different from acupuncture is that in the field of acupuncture, there are certain points that are very valid points in some cases to use depending on the client's condition, but these points are taboo. You cannot, for example, stick a needle into someone's nipple, or you cannot stick a needle into the location in between the genitals and the anus. But from a Chinese energetic anatomy point of view, these are very powerful points that sometimes are valid to activate or stimulate, depending on the client's condition. So with clinical Qigong, I have the luxury of, I always ask the client first if they're comfortable with me projecting energy here. But oftentimes they are, if they have a certain condition and it's called for. And I have the luxury of projecting energy a feet or 3 feet away from these locations and being able to access these taboo points that acupuncturists cannot. Another difference, I was just speaking about the distance aspect. I can do I can do a therapeutic session for someone in England, and that's not something that an acupuncturist whose only modality is acupuncture can do. And a way that they're both similar is that clinical Qigong actually has a technique called needles of light technique, where the clinical Qigong practitioner uses his own energy to form a needle of energy. And in this technique, he sticks the needles of energy into these points the same exact manner as an acupuncturist. And that can have quite profound effects as well. And another way, though, that they're different is that even though they use the same points and the same channels, really the theory behind the practice is completely different. Acupuncture follows the modality and theory of TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, whereas clinical Qigong it's more of a lineage-based classical Chinese practice that follows its own lineage theory. So, for example, in the theory and practice that I learned in this lineage, it's very much local and distal. So, for example, if someone has shoulder pain, I'll treat locally. I'll project energy on the points and channels right around the shoulder, as well as distally. So I might treat points around the hand and channels that shoot up the arm to get to the shoulder that way, as well as plenty of other techniques that I might specially use for that particular case. But whereas acupuncture has its own theory and practice that I won't get into because that would be a whole hour on itself.
Understood. Now, because it's also an energy healing practice, how does it differ from something like, say, Reiki?
Okay. I mean, I actually get that question quite often as well. So really, Reiki and clinical Qigong both fall under the big umbrella of energy healing practices. But I would say that's almost where that's where they're similar, because really they're quite fundamentally different in ideology in terms of the way they go about energy healing. So clinical Qigong falls under the category of the cultivation practice. The clinical Qigong practitioner, for example, won't be certified, won't be able to do heavy amounts of qi projection, or it won't be safe for them to do it until lots of cultivation. I mean, traditionally speaking in China, it would take years. It takes years for this to happen. You practice cultivation on a daily basis to regain your strength after a Qigong healing. And the practice of Reiki, and I believe other energy healing practices up there, fall under the category of channeling. So it's the view that there's no need to cultivate energy. You're just simply tuning into universal energy and allowing it to flow through your body. And from the perspective of the clinical Qigong practitioner, which is the perspective that I learned, that really cultivation this is the way you do it from the clinical Qigong point of view. And really, I'll speak about what cultivation does from the perspective of clinical Qigong. And by cultivating, you're not only increasing your energy, but you're also accessing higher qualities of qi. So qi is not just a one-note, black and white thing. And qi falls under really an infinite spectrum of higher level and lower level qi. So stagnant energy that is causing the dysfunction, that is qi. So that is qi that is not desirable. That's the qi that's causing the dysfunction. Whereas the practitioner cultivates so that he or she can get to a very high level of qi, and he can project this high level qi to displace and remove the stagnant energy. The qualities of qi change. So the quality of qi that I was able to access, for example, a year ago, is different than the quality of qi I can access now. And that's only because I've been cultivating and practicing Qigong on a daily basis. Another important aspect about cultivation is that when you do a clinical Qigong or energy healing on someone, you are inevitably accumulating and taking on some of the client's stagnant energy, this energy that caused their dysfunction. And if you are not doing anything to do about that, then you are going to accumulate that and eventually get sick yourself. And so this is not something that the practitioner wants to happen. So by cultivating and practicing an art like Qigong, for example, which is very self-healing, you are pushing out and not letting this stagnant energy stay in your system. So cultivation does a number of important things that, from the clinical Qigong perspective, is missed when you're only viewing it from the channeling point of view.
Now, what is the difference between self-Qigong practices and clinical Qigong practices?
Okay, that's another good question. So both of them are healing practices, but really it's the difference when you think about it between self-care versus professional therapy. So, I mean, I don't want to compare myself really to the dentist, but it kind of is the similar analogy of self-Qigong practice is kind of like doing your own self-oral care, of brushing your teeth, flossing. I mean, if you didn't do this on a regular basis, I mean, pretty soon your breath would start to stink, and I mean, society, it wouldn't be a good thing. But sometimes, I mean, it's necessary to go see the dentist. I mean, sometimes you have a root canal or a cavity, and it's very much necessary to do that. So in the same kind of way, self-Qigong practice is a self-care modality. It's a way to help give you your own power to help self-heal your own self through these movements. So I can speak to example for my own self. I mean, 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with a pituitary brain tumor. It wasn't cancerous, but it messed up my system in different ways. And that was around the time when I first discovered Qigong, and this helped me get onto this path. But I found Qigong to be really the single biggest help in self-healing, and even to this day, helping me stay in keep a normal balance in my life, health-wise. So I attribute so much self-healing to the self-practice of Qigong. But in the same way that sometimes you need to see the dentist, a clinical Qigong session can be very profound for someone as well. I mean, I'll speak to another experience where fairly not too long ago, I did a clinical Qigong session, for a massage practitioner who was retired now and frankly had burned out. After 20 years or so of massage, she had arthritic pain all over her body, and this pain was on the scale of levels of 9 to 10. And after this one Qigong session that I did for her, really all of her pain had dropped to a level 3 or 4, and in some places her pain was actually completely gone. So that speaks to what one session of the clinical Qigong can do for someone versus self-care, which would be very good for her to learn too. Self-care would help over time versus clinical Qigong, a lot can happen in one session.
Wow, this is also fascinating. You know, I was wondering, do you have a website people can find out more about your work, maybe how to get in touch with you and maybe get started if this is a direction they want to go in healing?
Yes. So I have a practice of teaching Gift of the Tao Qigong and my own clinical Qigong practice here in Portland. And my website is www.qiclinicpdx.com. That's QICLINICPDX.com.
Well, very good. Benjamin, thank you so much for joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program to share the benefits and the possibilities of healing with Qigong, especially clinical Qigong as a practice. It was good to hear about this.
Yes, great. I was glad to be here as well.
All right, thank you so much. Again, that website is QIClinicPDX.com. That's QICLINICPDX.com to discover more about the benefits of Qigong as a self-healing energy. I'd like to also welcome you to visit us at our website at Beyond50Radio.com to discover more. You can also sign up for our free weekly e-news updates. Follow us on Twitter at Beyond50Radio as well as Facebook. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you again for joining us. This is the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.